Okay, sorry for that delay. What you got for me? Questions? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so a little bit on, let me talk about a couple things with Vim. I'm sure that some of you have, let's see. So how many of you have seen this? All right. So let me talk about what's happening there and how you can avoid it happening in the future. So let's start with that. What happens is that when you're in the Vim editor, it is creating a file to keep track of everything you're doing between writes. So normally you don't see, all I see here is code.cpp, but there's actually an option you can provide to ls called, which I guess stands for all. So the -a shows that this file is here as well. In fact, any file name you provide in the Linux operating system that begins with a period is normally hidden and not seen by ls. And so you do have to use the -a option to see anything that begins with a period. For instance, if I create just my file and it begins with a period and I put a bunch of junk in there, if I do an ls you don't see it, so I'd have to do a ls-a to see that file as well. And it isn't to make it a secret file, because anyone who knows Linux at all knows that those files exist, right? You're just a -a option away from seeing them. The motivation for having that feature is that things like configuration files tend to clutter up things, and normally you don't want to see all that kind of stuff. So particularly in your home directories where you see a lot of configuration stuff. So if I go to my account on Jaguar, and this account definitely looks like my messy closet. There's a bunch of crap in there. But if I do a -a, then you can see there's all sorts of files that begin with a period here. Cache, bcrc, bashrc. RC is an abbreviation for runtime commands, so although it isn't the case all the time, you'll frequently find tools that will say the configuration file is blah 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 RC, and so that's just mostly for historical reasons. Anyway, the reason for me talking about that is that this file here is a file that Vim is creating. So if I edit code.cpp, and note that I do over here actually have it open in my editor right now, as long as that's open in my editor, it's going to keep this, it's called a swap file. It keeps a swap file out here, and again, all it is it's keeping track of all the work you've been doing between writes. And that's if you're in here for 20 minutes typing away your code and all of a sudden the power goes out, you haven't lost all that work. What you can do is you can utilize this swap file to recover the unsaved changes. So let me see if I can do that then. If I say, let me put in some code. Cout, this is a lot of unsaved work. And then if I, let me see, how do I want to do this? What I need to do is kill this pane. That's actually a command I don't know. Tmux kill pane. Let me see how I can kill this. X. All right. So I've got this unsaved work, and so this is the scenario it's defined for. All of a sudden, the power goes out, and then the power comes back on, and I get back into my account, and I go ahead and I bring this up in the editor, and it tells me, hey, I found a swap file by this name. What do you want me to do about it? And I've got the text blown up, so it's going to have to, there we go. I can open it for read only. I can edit it anyway. My guess is most of you do that. I can recover, and that's the intent, is if let me actually open anyway with the edit here. You can see that I don't have that change, unsaved change that I made. Now let me quit out of here and let me go in again. Now if I do R to recover, what it's going to do is it's going to read the swap file and put that unsaved work back in. Okay, so that's the purpose of the swap file. What's happening with you all is that you're getting in here, you're doing edits, and then you're accustomed to graphical user interfaces, which is when you're done for the day, you just come here and you just close that window. And Vim is still running, so that swap file is still out there. Right? Even if you wrote out all your changes, that swap file exists as long as Vim is running. So then you later come back in, and you have that case where you bring up your editor and it gives you that complaint. All right, so here I am, I'm back here. So how do you solve that problem? Let me go back. So I'm still here with my swap file, and I still have code. If I show you what that looks like without getting into the editor, you can see that it does not have that cout statement. So let's say that you don't have the issue of unsaved work that you want to recover, and that's going to be the case for most of you. It'd be very unusual for you to close the window without having written out your work. So all you want to do is you just want to edit code.cpp without getting this stupid message every time. Because even if I recover, it does not get rid of that swap file. That swap file will be there. You actually have to remove the swap file manually. So if you're having that issue, just come into your directory, do an ls-a, find these swap files, and you may have a bunch of them. For instance, let me go back in there and all right, so now if I do another ls, this is from when I broke out when I closed the window with Vim running. Now this is Vim running again. If I do ls-a, you can see there are now two of them. This is for when I kind of aborted mission, and this is for the session I have going now. And then if I were to prematurely kill this window over here, I would then have two swap files. So it's possible you all have been doing this repeatedly, and you may have 2, 3, 4, even 5 swap files. And you can see what they do here is they just change the last letter so that you can have unique file names. Just go in there and get rid of them all. So rm.code, let me actually quit out of this. .code.cpp. An easy way to get rid of them is particularly if you have a bunch of them, is just put an asterisk, and that means that's just a wildcard character. Note that you want to be very careful when you type this. Remember that remove is unforgiving, so if you forget that period there, you may very well lose the code that you did not want to lose. So make sure you have the period code, period.cpp, put an asterisk for everything. Now when I go in, then I come in without getting that message. Okay, so that's the quick fix to your problem, is remove all those swap files. The longer term fix to the problem is always quit out of Vim before you close the window. In fact, I would encourage you to get in the habit of, rather than being done for the day and closing the window here, I would just simply do either type exit, or if you hold down Control and hit D as in dog, that'll automatically quit these things. Okay, yeah.
You also hit D when the complaint shows up.
Control D when the.
Or, when it says like recover or edit, I wonder like.
Right, it gives you those options.
Delete.
Is there an option to do that?
Yeah, I would ask if you want to delete it, recover it, or some other options you could be are.
All right, so maybe that's another option that I didn't realize was there. Let me look at that. So where's this D option?
Wait, it was there last time.
See, if I do R for recover, it says that it went ahead and recovered. When it says buffer contents, that means the contents of what you're looking at in the bin session equals the file contents. You may want, but it's this here is asking me to delete it manually. Which would be my RM command. Now maybe I don't know, if there's some situation where it asks you to delete it, then yeah, go ahead and do that. I'm not familiar with that. All right. So that's that. Let me talk a little bit about the philosophy of the text editor and getting faster with it. Let me see. Let me do it over here. So let me call this vimtips.cpp, not cpp text. The philosophy is number, movement, number, command. So example commands are D for delete, C for change, I for insert, A for append, movement, and again all this will be posted. Some of these you're well familiar with, the H, let me see, H, J, K, and L for left, down, up, and right. W is a small word. Uppercase W is a large word. This is search for FDSA. That's actually a movement, right? Because if I do a slash, so this is how you do a search. In normal graphical text editors, you do like a Control F for find, or Command F if you're on a Mac. Here you just, inside of Vim, you do a slash and then the letter or letters you want to look for. So that immediately, note that that moved me from here. Let me just choose something there. So that is finding everything. I did a /AN. That moved my cursor to the next instance of AN. And then what I'm doing there is I'm saying N for next match in a search. That falls under movement. So searching is a thing in and of itself, and it's a big topic, but it is a movement in that your cursor does move as a result of doing a search. Let's see, $, end of line, uppercase G, end of file, 2 little g's, beginning of file. Oh, what other? Let me think if T X move to letter X, FX move forward on top of letter X. Let me see. 0 is beginning of line. All right. Now, so where you're seeing me do things very quickly is you're seeing me do this philosophy up here. Many, many, many things in Vim boil down to a number, a movement, a number, a command, and most of these are optional. So for instance, W lets you move a small word. Let me talk about what that means precisely. Here I'm doing little W's. W, 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 and what? Let me actually put this all in the same line. W, 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 W. Okay, those are all considered small words, and its distinction for a small word is that it's one, a word is separated by white space, or it's the change between characters and digits and punctuation. So note that here I threw in some garbage, but what I have is I have normal characters, then I have punctuation, then I have normal characters, then I have punctuation. When I'm doing lowercase w, note that it's pausing at the beginning of each change. So that is a small word. A large word ignores the differentiation between punctuation and letters and numbers and is just concerned with white space. So if I hold down Shift and I'm doing uppercase W, I immediately jump from word to word separated by white space. Okay? So that's where the movement is. That's an example of movement. The pound sign means I can put a number there. So I can type 3 lowercase w, and that moves me 3 small words. Or I can type 5 lowercase w, and that moves me 5 words. It's showing me the matching curly brace here. It's the black box is where my cursor is. Command, I can do a command by, some of these commands by itself, delete and change not so much. Insert and append I can do by themselves, and you've seen that. I can say I for insert, and I can type something. Let me hit U for undo. I can type a number before a command, as shown up here. So I can say, and I don't know why you'd want to do this necessarily, but I could say 10, insert, Todd, and then when I hit escape, it does that 10 times. Or if I added a new line, 10, insert, and I inserted Todd, and then I hit a new line, and I type Gibson, and I hit a new line, and I hit escape, then it'll do that 10 times. Whatever the insert is, it'll do it 10 times. Okay. So that's where the pound sign is coming next to the command and next to the movement. You can combine the movement and the command. Let me see. I've got this backwards. This is there. It's command movement, not movement command. I can combine command and movement. So I think D and C for delete and change are the most popular commands that you'd combine with movement. What I do a lot is DW to delete a word. So if I do DW, I'm deleting a small word. DW, delete a small word. Or I type 3DW and I delete 3 small words. Or I type a D and an uppercase W, and again, a large word would go all the way from here to this white space here. So that would do that. So those examples would be, what was I doing? DW, D5W, DW. And then what I actually do a fair amount that I haven't talked about it, but in class I've been doing these quite a bit, this T. So let me just show that as an example. If I'm here and I type TV, that moves my cursor to the next letter V. Let me do 0 to go to the beginning of the line again. If I type F, V, then it goes forward on top of it. So it's a very subtle distinction. But once you are accustomed to that distinction, it becomes very powerful. So for instance, maybe I want to delete everything from where I'm at up to this percent sign here. Now my first inclination might be to say, and let me just type in the command DFA, I want to delete forward on top of an A. But there's an A there, and there's an A there. And let me just throw in a couple more, let me throw in one more A for the heck of it. So if I say DFA, I go, oh, that's not far enough. I actually wanted to get all the way to the percent sign. So I could sit here and I could count 1, 2, 3 A's. Okay, so I want to do D3FA. Or so I could do 3DFA, or I could do D3FA. Right, that number can precede either the command or the movement. That's what this is showing up here. So let me try that, D3FA. But here's the thing, and this is why this isn't that advantageous, is that it's a hassle for me to sit there and squint and count the number of A's to know that. So this is where it becomes powerful for you to kind of get to muscle memory, the distinction between T and F. What I immediately notice is, one, I need to get, basically I have to delete everything up to here, right? I note I can either go forward on top of an A, but there are a lot of A's and it's a hassle for me to count it, or I can immediately notice there aren't that many percent signs. So instead of doing some variant like here, why don't I just say delete to the percent sign? And that's where mentally for me the T and the F are very powerful, and I use them interchangeably. I figure out which is the easiest for me to parse with my eyeballs. I see there are almost no percent signs, so I just say delete to percent, and I get what I want without having to count the letter A's. And I do that quite a bit. These are showing with delete. This, of course, works with change. I do that quite a bit. Change to the percent sign, and then I type in my new text and hit escape. All right. So those are the kinds of things that I'm doing to move around quickly. Other movements that I do quite a bit are H. This is top of screen. And let me emphasize that. L is bottom, and M is middle of screen. And by screen, what I mean is what you're viewing here. Right now, my screen is lines 10 through 27. So it's not the file, it's just the screen. So I can go H, M, L, right? And a lot of times, what this gets you away from is going, oh, I need line 17. Right? You've all done that, right? If you've got H, M, and L committed to memory, you go, well, where's it close to? The top, middle, or bottom of the screen? I go 17 is close to the middle, so I do M, and then I just do 1K. So this is what I mean by, if you're doing more than 3 or 4 keystrokes to do whatever you want to do in this editor, there's probably a faster way to do it. And that's the whole key to this editor. Again, I acknowledge this from the beginning. It's a pain in the ass to learn. It's non-intuitive. But if you commit yourself to learning these, by the end of the semester, you're going to be editing twice as fast as someone who's dragging that mouse around. Okay? And I asked in my, it was either 515 or 540, one of the advanced classes that you primarily have seniors in. Anyone have me for 111? And yeah, I had 3 hands. Do you use Vim? They all nod. Are you glad that I made you use Vim? And yeah, they're pretty emphatic because they understood that they are actually going at a pretty fast clip. Now, many of you are not computer science majors. And that means that you probably won't take another programming class, maybe 211 at the worst. And maybe you're interested in building bridges, and I can just go to hell with my editor, and that's fine. Okay. I respect that. I understand it's not for everyone. So if I come and I help you and you're using some other editor, that's fine. I'm just trying to feed you your broccoli and make you healthy and strong if you're a computer science major, or if you want to be like the coolest engineering major in the college. But I don't have anything in the course where I grade on it, right? So it's not something that you're forced to use and being graded on. All right. So that is that. Any other questions about anything? Yes?
Could you go over file input and output type of things? And give it a review?
Yeah, sure. Whoops. So this is something else you have if you ran that helper script at the beginning of the semester. I set up some configuration parameters, including a lot of Vim commands on this command line. So what I normally do is I hit escape, K to go up to previous commands. Here I accidentally did text instead of CPP. So then what I'll do is I will do FT, and then I will, I guess based on what I said, I'd do CW to change word and change that to CPP. All right, so you get faster on the command prompt as well. All right, when you're dealing with files, don't forget you have to include fstream. Let me do something. Cout. This is a message going to the screen. Cout. Now I'm going to ask, or how about now I'm going to get a floating point number. Cin. I better create one, I guess. Float FL. CNFL. Let me copy this. Now I'm going to get a string. I'm going to put a little comment here. This will leave a new line waiting to be read in. Because when I type it in from Cin, what do? I type 3.14 and I hit enter. So the minute I hit enter, I'm introducing that character that produces a new line. This reads in the number, it doesn't read in the new line. This is going to read until it finds a new line. Well, if the new line is the first thing to be read in, then it basically reads in nothing and str is empty. The way around that is, if I understand that that is how this input here works, I am going to, somewhere between line 10 and 13, doesn't matter where, I'll put it here. I'll put it ignore. This will be to ignore the new line that followed the number entry. And then I guess I could cout number equals, and I'll print out that. And then I can cout string equals, and I can print that out. All right. Let me compile that and run it. I haven't done anything with files yet, by the way. All right, 3.14, Mickey Mouse. And there we go. Now, let's convert this to read and write to files. So first, I want to read from a file. I'm going to want to read from a file and I'm going to write to a file. I think what I will do is let me call this input data.text. And what I did with that is I said 3.14 and then I typed Mickey Mouse. Right? That's what I did. And then output data I'll just simply create. So let me bring this up. ifstream, doesn't matter what you call it, I'm going to call it INF. And this will come from input data.text. Whoops, is that what I called it? Input underscore data. I'm going to copy and paste that. I'm going to change IF to OF. I'm going to call this my output file. And here I'm going to do, in Vim, I'm going to type C2 underscore. I was sitting right here, C2 underscore output. Escape. And now, all I have to do is find every instance of cout and change it to outf. So I'll use search, cout, hit enter. Now, give me a command to change this to outf. Give me the keystrokes in Vim, the most optimal keystrokes. I could go XXXXI, huh? CW, C word, change word, yeah? CW, outf. Okay, now a couple more Vim tips. I'll have to put them in the file here. So I got N. Also, dot means repeat last command or edit. All right. Now, so what I did, let me back up. I did a search for cout. I hit enter. It brought me to the first one. I typed CW outf. I hit escape. I hit N for next. And then I do dot to repeat the last command. Next, dot, next, dot, next, dot, N, period, until there aren't any more. I'll go ahead and write that. Now I need to do the same thing for input. I want to find every version of CN, and I want to do change word, change that to INF, escape, next dot, until there's no more.
Next is just N.
Next is N, yes. Line 30 on the right ping. So, what I'm trying to show here is that there's no difference between the way you use CN and the way you use input files. There's no difference between the way you use cout and the way you use output files, right? I just changed CN and cout to INF and outf. One thing that's good practice to do that you don't do with CN and cout is close them when you're done. So I'm going to add a couple lines. It's not the end of the world. If you forget these, the program will just close them for you as the program is ending, but it's good practice to get into. So when you get to bigger programs, it can become an issue. So I just add those close statements just before I exit out here. Now let's come over here and compile it. Let me change my prompt. All right, G++ standard equals C++11. This is file io.cpp. All right, that's what we have. We have our input data. Again, that was the 3.14 in the Mickey Mouse. Let me run a.out. There's no input or output to see because it's all happening with files now. If I do another ls, you see that it created output data. Let's look at output data. There you go. Other questions? All right, let's kill it 5 minutes early and we will see you in lab.